Dallas. A white female off-duty police officer who shot and killed a young unarmed black man in his Dallas apartment last year in a shooting that heightened racial tensions goes on trial for murder on Monday in a case that has angered, puzzled, and captivated the city for months. The former officer, Amber R. Geiger, 31, was returning home from her patrol shift that night in September 2018 when she claimed she thought she was entering her own apartment. While standing at an apartment one floor above her own, she fired her weapon twice at her 26-year-old neighbor, Botham Shem Jean, striking him once in the torso and killing him. Ms. Geiger told the police she thought Mr. Jean was an intruder and that she was under the mistaken impression that she was standing in her own doorway when she opened fire. Mr. Jean's family and supporters, including many in the city's black community, found Ms. Geiger's version of events unbelievable. Mr. Jean had a large bright red semicircular doormat that stuck out on the bare concrete floors of the building's brightly lit hallways. Ms. Geiger had no doormat outside her unit. And her confusion that night lasted not just a few moments but for several minutes. She had parked on the fourth floor of the building's parking garage, not the third floor, where she lived. For years, Mr. Jean had gone out of his way to avoid even routine encounters with the police and shunned casual clothes for dressier ones, his mother, Allison Jean, told the New York Times in an interview last year. "I always told him, why do you have to be so dressy?" Ms. Jean recalled. "He said, Mom, I don't want to be stopped. I don't want for them to think I'm somebody I'm not." Ms. Geiger has told investigators that the door was slightly ajar and that it opened when she tried to unlock it. But lawyers for Mr. Jean's family have said the door was closed, and that neighbors heard a commotion before the shooting, including someone banging on his door and shouting. Mr. Jean's relatives and their lawyers said Mr. Jean and the officer did not know each other. A host of unanswered questions could finally be answered as testimony begins in Ms. Geiger's trial. A jury, if it decides to convict, could find her guilty of murder or of a lesser charge such as manslaughter. The question is not whether Ms. Geiger shot Mr. Jean, but whether the jury believes it was a case of mistaken identity, as Ms. Geiger claims, and that she believed she was acting in self-defense. In a previous interview, one of her lawyers, Robert L. Rogers, said his client should not be convicted of murder because she believed that she was inside her own apartment that night. "I think the investigation supports that," Mr. Rogers said. "I think everybody that objectively looks at this believes that she believes she was in her apartment. I believe it was reasonable for her to believe that she was being threatened with an intruder in her home and therefore she acted in self-defense. The law justifies her actions." Before the trial even got underway on Monday morning amid heavy security and large crowds, the defense demanded a mistrial after a controversy emerged involving prosecutors and the media. Judge Tammy Kemp of the District Court in Dallas had issued a gag order prohibiting lawyers in the case from commenting on it in the news media. At issue was an interview that aired Sunday on the local Fox affiliate in which the Dallas County District Attorney, John Cruzat, discussed the issue of a murder charge versus a manslaughter charge. "I've studied what we have and I feel comfortable that we are going forward on it, but I don't have any idea as to how it will end up," he told the TV station. The defense lodged a complaint about the interview and the judge, who appeared visibly frustrated, said she was going to take a recess to watch a video of the interview. But the judge later returned to the bench and did not order a mistrial, and instead said that the jury would be seated, with opening statements to follow. Ms. Geiger, who is free on bond during the trial, was at first put on administrative leave after the shooting and then later fired by the Dallas Police Department. She was initially charged with manslaughter. Mr. Jean's supporters held a series of demonstrations calling for a more serious charge, including disrupting a Dallas City Council meeting. Months later, a Dallas County grand jury indicted her for murder. Mr. Jean, who was from the island nation of St. Lucia in the Caribbean, was alone in his one-bedroom apartment on September 6, 2018, in a sleek complex a block away from the Dallas Police Department headquarters. He had texted his sister that he planned to watch a football game on TV that night. Mr. Jean worked for the auditing firm PwC, formerly known as PricewaterhouseCoopers. He lived in Unit 1478 on the 4th floor of the Southside Flats complex. Ms. Geiger lived directly below him in Unit 1378 on the 3rd floor. That night, Ms. Geiger was returning home after working a 14-hour shift. She said in court documents that when she opened the door, the apartment was dark and she saw a silhouette of someone she thought was a burglar. She said she shouted commands that were ignored. Neighbors, however, have told lawyers for Mr. Jean's relatives that they heard someone banging on the door and shouting, "Let me in," and "Open up," before gunshots rang out. Some neighbors disputed Ms. Geiger's contention that it was too dark to see inside the apartment. They said the lighting in the hallway is bright and illuminates the inside of the apartments when doors are open. Ms. Geiger, who had been with the Dallas Police Department for 4 years, had been involved in a previous shooting. In that case, a man grabbed her taser weapon during a confrontation, and she shot him in the stomach. The man survived, and a grand jury later declined to indict her. Marina Trejan Martinez reported from Dallas. Manny Fernandez reported from Houston.